After President Donald Trump ordered an airstrike that killed Iranian Quds Force General Qasem Soleimani, the White House made it very clear they feel the Obama administration enabled Iran to move forward with nuclear missiles. The reason? The Obama administration gave Iran $1.7 billion in 2016, something former Secretary of State John Kerry sees as a little bit of money. Kerry said during an interview on CNN, "We gave them a little bit of money that was released in that period of time, not as part of the nuclear arrangement. But the fact is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had all the money it wanted. The IRGC wasn't starving at that point in time, and in fact, Iran owed billions upon billions of dollars. Most of that money went to pay off their debts and to facilitate their economic initiatives." But even when this payment was made back in 2016, Kerry acknowledged that the money that was part of the Iranian nuclear deal would probably go to terrorists. From CNN in January 2016. Secretary of State John Kerry acknowledged to CNBC Thursday that some of the money Iran received in sanctions relief would go to groups considered terrorists. When asked about whether some of the $150 billion in sanctions relief to Iran would go to terrorist groups, Kerry reiterated that, after settling debts, Iran would receive closer to $55 billion. He conceded some of that could go to groups considered terrorists, saying there was nothing the U.S. could do to prevent that. "I think that some of it will end up in the hands of the IRGC or other entities, some of which are labeled terrorists," he said in the interview in Davos, referring to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. "You know, to some degree, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every component of that can be prevented." But he added that, right now, we are not seeing the early delivery of funds going to that kind of endeavor at this point in time. Former Secretary of State John Kerry wrote an opinion piece for the NY Times on Thursday blaming President Donald Trump for conflict and turmoil with Iran, arguing that diplomacy was working until Trump abandoned it. "There's a lot we could dispute but let's just take a look at a couple of things." Here's what Kerry says about IRGC terrorist leader Qasem Soleimani. "Let's get one straw man out of the way. General Soleimani was a sworn, unapologetic enemy of the United States, a KG field marshal who oversaw Iran's long strategy to extend the country's influence through sectarian proxies in the region. He won't be mourned or missed by anyone in the West. Occasionally, when American and Iranian interests aligned, as they did in fighting ISIS, we were the serendipitous beneficiaries of his relationships and levers, as were the Iraqis. But this was a rare exception. That underscores the tragic irony of Trump's decision to abrogate the nuclear agreement. It played into General Soleimani's hard-line strategy by weakening voices for diplomacy within the Tehran regime. What Iranian diplomat would be empowered by a skeptical supreme leader to explore de-escalation with a country that broke its word on a historic agreement and then, in their words, martyred arguably Iran's second most powerful figure? According to the Washington Free Beacon, the payment included $400 million, plus an additional $1.3 billion in interest from taxpayer funds, ostensibly to settle a dispute over military equipment Iran purchased but never received following the Shah's fall in 1979. Critics, however, described the payment as a ransom to secure the freedom of American hostages being held by the Tehran regime. First of all, $1.7 billion isn't just a little bit of money, that's a lot of money, especially when you're handing it over to terrorists. Hell, even giving $1 to a terrorist or a terrorist organization is a dollar too much. And second, people like Kerry have a lot of nerve talking about how the Trump administration was wrong in killing Soleimani when the previous administration literally gave them taxpayer money to build missiles that can and will be used against Americans.